The special Planning Commission meeting of Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017 at 6:02 p.m. Could we all stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Party is absent. Commissioner Saryan?
Present.
Commissioner Findling? Here. Commissioner Beck?
Yo.
Commissioner Kirby?
Here.
Commissioner Accord? Here. Chair Haguer?
Here. Number 3 is public comment. If there's anybody that wishes to speak to the Planning Commission on something that is not on the agenda, this is the opportunity. No one is interested right at the moment. Number 4 is the cannabis industry zoning amendment.
All right. Thank you, guys. So this is pretty much the last meeting for Planning Commission. So we do kind of need to make a decision tonight if we are going to have everything ready to go by the end of this year so that we can start doing license before January 1, 2018. We have scheduled the ordinance package for the city council meeting this coming Monday. So pretty much we need to recommend something. We're at the end of that timeline. So what we discussed at the last meeting was the talk about volatile chemicals and non-volatile chemicals. So what I did was in your staff reports for this meeting, beginning on page 4 of your packets, I kind of broke down the cannabis product manufacturing down so you guys can have a better understanding of, what fits in each category, so that we're a little bit more clear on what's going on there. One of the things I did want to talk about is the one big thing we were discussing was alcohol. So I did make some calls, and thanks to Commissioner Beck for pointing out this more easy to decipher California Department of Public Health comments and responses. So as of September 28th, 2017, there was a discussion about using alcohol, ethanol in manufacturing. And so what they're deciding to do is they're clarifying now that high-grade, chemical-grade ethanol, which is like 80 to 100% ethanol, is part of the volatile manufacturing process. So food-based alcohol, so like vodkas, things like that, that is part of the non-volatile product manufacturing and can be used in food-based manufacturing. Now, a caveat to that is you cannot have alcohol cannabis products. So your final product that you're selling to a retailer cannot have an alcohol content and a cannabis content. They're not allowing that at this time. Similar to how, the Four Loko got called back for caffeine and alcohol, they're not allowing for those two substances to be put on a product market right now. So doing a little bit more, so a type 6 state license, which is the non-volatile license, will allow people to use a food-based or a low-grade ethanol in that production. So that kind of clears up what we were talking about as far as, being able to make tinctures. Tinctures are allowed in the type 6 non-volatile product manufacturing. It's just listed in there. And they're going to be putting some more clarifying language into those regulations, and as we move forward with the transition phase, so in the next 2 years, they'll hopefully have a little bit more fleshed out language for us to reconsider when we talk about this again. One of the things I put into the staff report is based on consultation with the fire chief, the police chief, and looking at the California regulations, we still advocate that high-grade ethanol, butane, hexane, and volatile chemical manufacturing is something we don't recommend at this time. So the city staff as a whole do not feel comfortable with the guidance from the state right now as far as preferred siting for those facilities, preferred building codes for those facilities to ensure that they're done in a safe manner. Now, it's not saying that we're completely against it as a whole. We're just saying right now we don't feel like we're adequately trained or there's enough guidance from the state to properly handle those types of uses. So we're continuing to advocate for no volatile manufacturing at this time. That being said, again, we did clarify the alcohol portion of that, which we were talking primarily of tinctures, and so that is allowed. So that does still allow for some manufacturing options. In addition to that, I did make a call and then some research to the Cannabis Industry Association and talked about, non-volatile and volatile manufacturing and how often either one of those are used. And frankly, they said there's no particular industry practice that is above another. So they see both uses or both types of manufacturing being used very frequently. And so there's some pros and cons for each one. Volatile manufacturing, you do get a higher concentrated product, but it is using those volatile chemicals. The pro of the non-volatile manufacturing is that some people consider it a more natural way of doing it without the use of chemicals. So there's pros and cons to each side. So as far as limiting ourselves with the types of industry that we see here, based on my research, we really won't be limiting ourselves with just allowing non-volatile at this time. So that's the position the staff has taken. If the Planning Commission wishes to continue to add language on volatile manufacturing, to at this time amend the ordinance to have some language to allow volatile manufacturing, you can make that decision. But when it does go to the City Council, staff will continue to take that stance. We just feel that it's not something we can adequately do at this time, and health, safety, and welfare of the community is our utmost care.
I just have to clarify something you said, because I'm not sure I quite got it. You were saying that the food-based alcohol, it's still not legal to have alcohol and cannabis together, even if it's vodka and cannabis extractions?
So you can use it in the process. So as long as there's some type of, for example, when you have like a vodka sauce, you cook off most of the alcohol content.
Yes, okay.
So you can do
still
that.
have to remove, or, do a process after that?
Correct, if it's a food-based product.
If it's the food-based, all right.
Correct.
And
So
that's not under the volatile, so it's,
correct.
yeah. Okay.
That's under the type 6 or the food-based
Do we
manufacturing.
have, are we covered, is our food-based manufacturing clear on that, having to remove the alcohol on that? I don't.
We don't have that in the definition. That's a state regulation.
State
So,
regulation, so we don't have to.
we do the
Okay.
catch-alls of follow all state regulations, so I don't think you would need to put that in there at this
Okay.
point. So that's pretty much the research and information to kind of address those points. Going back to the zoning amendment, so your first piece of business, starting on page 6 of your packets, in red, you'll see that I did put in the additional language about, so instead of naming the downtown enhancement district outright, I just put special district regulations. So we've been in the discussion of, at the city council level, of instituting like a tax increment financing district, which would be a special district. And so what I decided to do with that is anytime we develop a special district, we'll just have them determine if they want to allow cannabis or not in that special district, as opposed to coming back to this ordinance and amending it every time to say every single district that we have that we don't want cannabis. So it allows for some flexibility there. So what'll happen, and I have been in contact with the Downtown Enhancement Advisory Committee, is I will be going to their next meeting and recommending that they amend their rules to not allow cannabis if that's something they don't want to do in that district. And that'll end up coming to you guys anyway for a review. So that way they have a little bit more control of their rules as opposed to putting that in here. And then page number 7, you'll see the amended zoning matrix with the recommendations you had made at the last few meetings with the conditional use permits in C1, and then the conditional use permits for the personal gardens. In addition to that, we had the discussion of personal gardens and yards that may not be able to meet the setbacks. So on page 12, you'll see red language that kind of puts that in there, that people can request a setback exemption for the personal garden tag, and then we'll basically go for a review. There are the 2 findings that we would make for that. And then anytime anyone's denied a setback exemption, they can go through the appeals process, which would be appealed to you. As per chapter 18.32. So I put that language in there to ensure that if someone does have some issues meeting those setbacks, we can take it on a case-by-case basis. So I will now open it up for questions from the commission on the zoning amendment.
Tucson, you want to start tonight? Do you have anything you want to remark upon on this particular part?
No, it looks good to me for now.
Melanie?
Yeah, I think that you did a great job of incorporating what we requested. I just, on the personal garden, is that, so that's, that would be done through the planning department. So there's no,
Yep,
there's, the only time that we would deal with it is only on an appeal. Otherwise, it's,
yep, pretty much, yep.
thanks.
Emily?
Nope, I think I'm good right now.
Paul?
Okay, so to reiterate, right now, food grade alcohol extraction
Yep.
is permitted, and let me see if I have any other specific questions. I do have comments, but I guess that'll come at a different point, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so with, as far as questions go, it was just mainly about that clarification of food grade as opposed to volatile.
Yep, and there's going to still continue to be some clarification from the state on those things, so we'll continue to
Right.
watch that.
There was some things that came down today that there's still more changes happening just when we thought we were at the end of the road with structuring the new legislation. They decided to punt, and so that'll all evidence itself later in the meeting as far as what that means exactly.
Okay. Then I'll open this up to public input on, and this is on the cannabis industry zoning amendment. Does anyone wish to speak to the commission? Okay.
Just the zoning.
Just the zoning.
Or personal garden tags.
So are we going to leave C1 and 2 in there?
They are. There is a binder in the back with the copy of the agenda packet. Okay, sure.
Okay. I will now close the public comment period. And commissioners, I guess what we need to do is...
I do have a question, Juliana, on the C1.
Go.
Okay, Juliana, on the C1, the way you rewrote,
Which page?
let me find it, sorry. The special district regulations, is that going to still be as defined on the map
Which page?
last time? Page 6.
Can you clarify?
So, yeah.
Sure.
So for C1 zoning, the downtown enhancement district,
Correct.
is it still going to be that area, even though we've renamed it the special district regulations, it's still going to be that area that we discussed, right?
Correct.
So, okay. But it won't include the end of Mount Shasta Boulevard, the area behind the grocery, or the
Correct.
shopping center, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But to clarify, but that depends on whether the downtown enhancement district presumably they will decide
Yeah.
to disallow it.
Yeah, I've had preliminary conversations with them. I want to say it was late 2017, and they were not supportive of allowing cannabis uses in the downtown district, which is perfectly fine. So my understanding is they're going to move to do that.
Timing?
They'll have it probably in place before any of this really comes in, so.
But so we can't keep it in
You can put it, you can recommend that I put the specific name back into the ordinance if you want. We can do that. I just figured it might offer a little bit more flexibility if any other special districts are created, so, because we're not going to be calling them out specifically in this ordinance, because then we would have to amend this ordinance every time a new special district is added that doesn't want to have cannabis in it. If that makes sense a little bit. That way, if they just put it in
I
their
just don't know if I
rules-
like leaving it as open-ended.
Sure. Yeah, we can amend it back to the specific.
Could we say the downtown enhancement district as well as other special district regulations?
Okay, so the only problem with some of this is that if they have, talked about wanting to enlarge the downtown enhancement district down to Berryvale, okay? I think that in that area is what I think they do. So all of a sudden then that area becomes blanketed by the downtown or by the specific.
But even if they do,
enhancement thing.
if they do change that, that won't matter. If they change where the downtown enhancement district ends, it will still be included in special district regulations.
You think?
Yeah, I mean,
So one of the things to bring in as well is in that case, they would probably grandfather cannabis uses. So if there's a
right,
cannabis
if there is
use.
already something there, it won't be
Correct.
affected. Right.
And that'll be a discussion we would bring up with them when they do decide to do the expansion. And just for point of information, expanding the district is a lot harder than you would think it is because it would require voting of the general populace.
Okay.
So it is not easy to do that, and there would be a lot of discussion around that.
I would feel more comfortable including the downtown enhancement district and then saying as well as other special districts
Okay.
as recommended.
So.
Okay, I'm going to take a poll with,
Sure.
of commissioners, how you feel about that. Is everybody comfortable with that change or not comfortable? Comfortable? Good with it or not?
Comfortable?
Everybody good
It's
with that?
fine. It's fine to me. I mean, it's a little redundant. I mean, I like sort of the cleanness of your proposal, but I guess I understand your concern that you feel like they might not decide to, or
Right.
the timing might not be.
I think it's just not complete. If we say special district regulations and then, yeah, the timing's off and somebody does apply for a license and then for some reason they don't want it in that district, the downtown enhancement district decides no, I just think it makes ours complete in that saying that area is restricted
Keeps it the same and adds,
and adds something as well.
okay.
Right. I don't think they could, because we have three
Well,
three
yeah, but
establishments
if one of them is abandoned, then,
between now and
yeah.
January.
So, everybody else okay with putting downtown enhancement
I
and
don't-
special?
I don't understand the possible liability of doing it, so I guess I'm okay. If it makes everybody else feel better.
Hey, guys, sorry.
All right, so everybody's fine with putting,
And in addition to that, the downtown is all C1, so they would be conditional use permits anyway, so.
That's true. I didn't even think of that. Thank you, Juliana.
Yep.
So does that make you rethink
so,
it?
yeah,
No, I think we should, I like what I said, but
it's a little
they
wordy.
are conditional. It's fine.
And if we do, we can always revisit this to take that wording out. It's pretty easy to do. I'm not really that concerned about that.
Okay. So then I guess we're supposed to be making a motion on this, huh? Approving
I
the
move.
changes?
I mean, I think you did a great job. I think we collectively have done a
me
good
too.
job. So, so I'd move to approve with the amendment that includes this downtown enhancement district.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Melanie moved and Emily seconded,
Thank you.
and all were in favor. Number 5 is reconsideration of proposed cannabis retail license and standards ordinance.
Correct, and so you can decide to not reopen this since you have voted in favor of putting this one forward. I did a minor amendment on page 15, you'll see that. I didn't anticipate this taking longer, but it's completely fine because you guys are doing a good job putting stuff together thoroughly. But if we did the 30 calendar days for open application periods, I wouldn't be able to license people this year, and then they would have to wait a whole year before they could start operating. So I contacted John Kenny, and he recommended we go back and just do a minor amendment to read the initial application period, and this is for receiving applications, shall be a minimum of 7 calendar days from the date the applications are released. Should the application closing day fall on a day when City Hall is closed, the application period shall be extended to the next open day at 4 p.m. So originally it said that we had to have the application open for 30 whole days. This gives us a little bit of flexibility with the very short timeline that we're working with to get this all done by the end of the year, and to the state to be able to only do a week for this year. But in the case that we do have another license open, for example, if one of our retail licenses become available, we can open it for really 30 days again. It's just moving it to a minimum of 7 helps me try and get these licenses out this year.
Minimum of 7, okay.
And I changed that same language in the
Is this a yearly application always?
No.
It's a,
one-time application, but there is a yearly renewal.
But I mean, there's only one window of time to renew, in other words? Or
You would have to renew every year. We send a letter out 30
No,
days.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
or to apply.
Correct.
So there's, like, January 1st is your window to apply for a license to whatever,
Correct.
and then it's closed.
Yep.
Okay.
And we didn't have language for that before, so this is good that we're adding this now.
Okay.
So,
Right, so there's no maximum. So really, you could,
Yeah.
if you need flexibility, you've got it.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
So that's it? I'll move.
okay.
Well, I think we do have to
Oh, we
open.
never mind.
Okay, if we don't have any questions, I'll just open it to the public. Is everybody pretty clear on this? Okay. I'm going to open for public comment on the number of, the license
5.
of retail license and standards. Anyone want to comment? No, close that, and
Shouldn't change
move
anything
on
else.
to the motion. There we go.
So I'll move unless somebody, I'll move to adopt as presented by staff.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Melanie moved and Paul seconded. All were in favor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we're going to the, number 6, the Cannabis Industry License and Standards Ordinance.
Okay, so the ordinance language will start on page 22 of your packets. So as you'll see on page 23, I amended that similar language as we had in the retail license and standards. I just wanted them to be the same. So it's the minimum 7 calendar days so that I'll basically open up the application period for a week, at least for this first one. So once we close an application period, it doesn't mean we stop taking applications. And I think that's something to clarify here. What we do with the open 7 days is we say, okay, you can submit your applications at this time. I'm putting together the application packet right now, so it'll be out before all of this is codified, so people will have access to it to start putting stuff together before we open that app period. It'll just basically say, we'll have it open for 7 days, we'll get the applications in that period, and we'll assess them as they come in. And then if we get anyone after the 7 days, they'll just go to the bottom of the pile, and then we'll add them in there. So, assuming we don't meet our maximums. So once we hit the maximum permit amount that you guys decide, we cut that off. So I did put that language in there. As far as other amendments, I did not make any other amendments from the last meeting because you guys had quite a few questions about the alcohol tinctures, things like that, and hopefully that's been clarified. The only other item we did not get to at the last meeting that was up for discussion was 5.80.030, maximum number of licenses, letter B. So right now, we are still at the originally recommended no more than 5 of each license type for a total of 15 to operate in the city. So again, that number was taken arbitrarily, looking at how many other permits people have been offering. If you do at this time want to lower that number, that's perfectly okay. We have talked about, again, we do want to stay up to date on what's happening with the state and reassess this ordinance in 2 years. City staff would like to do that. And you can easily raise that number in 2 years. It's much harder to lower the number of licenses because we can't take licenses away from people once they're out. So it's up to you guys what number you feel comfortable proposing to the city council.
Okay. I'm just going to ask each of you what number you like. I don't know, and then we can discuss it. If we find we all agree, then we can just move on to the public comment. Tucson?
I'm still comfortable with 3 to start with, and knowing that we can bump it up.
In
Just to
2
see-
years.
Just to see what happens.
Juliana, sorry, Linda, can we bump it up prior to 2 years, or is 2 years?
Yep, Planning Commission has the ability to reopen an ordinance anytime they see fit.
Thank you.
Melanie?
So I think my memory of how we got to 5 last time is the idea that there's 5 types of licenses.
No.
There's 3 types.
There's 3 types of licenses. Okay, so if there's 3 types of licenses, So one outfit can't have more than one,
We struck that.
so you couldn't buy up all of the nursery license, or what, you
Correct.
couldn't, one entity couldn't have all of the retail licenses?
Correct. It wouldn't make sense for one building to have multiple retail licenses, or it wouldn't, one of the questions that was brought up before was about cultivation. So you can apply for a cultivation license and be awarded it, but it's based off of the square footage, so you can have no more than 10,000 square feet. So you wouldn't be able to come back and get another license for cultivation for another 10,000 on the same property.
No.
Because that's not how we measure that. So each business is going to have their own license. So for example, one property could apply for a cultivation license, a non-volatile license, and a food-based license if they so choose. But unless they're a different business in the same area, which you can't sublet any part of your business, you'd have to get a different license, if that makes sense.
Right, so I guess my thinking was that an entity there might be value in having kind of, seedling to manufactured product, that could be of value to someone. And that's how we got to the idea of having 5.
That's how we got the idea of lifting the maximum number of permit types for each person. As far as the 5 number, the ad hoc committee recommended that 5 number, and it really is an arbitrary number. We really did not use any type of logic or anything to do that. The ad hoc can speak for themselves, but I literally just threw out a number and said, this sounds okay for me. I would feel comfortable managing this many businesses or this types of licenses. I mean, if you continue to add more, it's going to be more time on staff to manage that many businesses, because I will have to inspect each one of these licenses once a year. So the more licenses you have, the more time I have to spend inspecting. So I would not like to spend my entire year. I would rather not spend my entire year just inspecting cannabis industry, even though it is kind of fun. But
Isn't there a code? Isn't it
Certainly interesting, if nothing else.
I think for right now, again, it is. I wouldn't recommend more than 5 of each category right now, because we really don't know how this is all going to pan out. So I did attend the 2017 APA conference in Sacramento for California, and they had 4 sessions on cannabis planning. I did not go to all of them. I went to one of them, and then the new county community development director went to 2 of them. And so we were talking about them, and they had some good things and bad things. It's a case-on-case basis what happens with cannabis and city policy. But starting smaller has been the recommendation, because we've met with a few counties and cities that didn't have a maximum number of licenses, and now they're having a lot of issues with the number of industries that are in their city that are just not operating efficiently. So we want to make sure we keep it a doable number for city staff to inspect and make sure that everyone's operating in a legal and safe manner.
Right, so this would then, if we did 5, that would mean we'd be adding 2 more retail?
No, this is no additional retail.
Yeah, no.
This is just for the cultivation, product manufacturing, non-volatile, and food-based.
So
And
it's a
then
total of
the
9 licenses.
No, 15.
15 right
As
now
it
is how it's
states.
listed.
No, I mean, if it were 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If it was,
So
3, it's
the
9, 15 if it were 5.
So nurseries, distribution, transportation, and testing facilities require very specialized pieces of land that are very large. So we didn't put a maximum number of permits on those, because when I took a look at, what land is available for those, you're not going to have too many facilities that are like that. We can take a look at that later, but our own zoning code and our own available properties puts a cap on how many of those we can really get. And as far as my recent predictions, we could maybe sustain, if the 2 nurseries got a nursery license, we could do that. But as far as available property in the city limits, we don't have too much that can do the nursery function. Maybe 1 or 2 more. And then distribution facilities are quite large and require a lot of facilities based on state regulation. So I would predict we can maybe handle 2 of those. So there's so many natural restrictions already in the city that those really don't need a maximum permit amount at this time. And they don't really involve, those don't really involve a lot of processing on site as well. I mean, the nurseries do a little bit, but as far as distribution, transportation, those are all just moving goods. So they're a lot less accessible to the public. They're a lot less accessible to, there's a lower number of employees, so you're a lot less accessible to kind of gaps in safety for that matter. So those ones we didn't put a maximum number on, but they still are required to get a license from us, but it doesn't fit in that 15.
And what, I mean, do you sense, have a sense in terms of people who've been coming in to talk to you? What sense, you just have a sense of
Melanie,
demand?
I think that we need to move, so we can see, if everybody says 3, then we're good. And you can come back and say,
Well, let me finish this last question.
okay.
So have you had any demand for different kinds, or people have talked to you about the kinds of licenses they'd want?
I've maybe had 3 for each license type. So.
Are they separate businesses, or are they,
So
the same person?
they would be separate businesses. There is one interested party that has multiple buildings on one property with separate addresses that are looking to do those, so they're a little bit more concentrated. But as far as, someone applying for multiple industry licenses, no. Usually one person comes in going, I'm interested in doing cultivation, what are you looking to do? Or I get one person coming in and going, I'm thinking of doing food-based, what am I able to do? I have had some of the retail licenses ask about cannabis industry as well, but again, they're only asking about maybe one type of the licenses that we're offering. So I'm not getting too many people. Like I said, I have had one person come in who has a property with 2 buildings and is thinking about getting 2 licenses, but what they're doing is they're leasing those buildings to separate businesses. So it's just a property manager who's asking questions. So
Okay, thanks.
does that help?
It does. Because we could change.
3 or 5.
3 or 5. Oh, I don't know yet. Let me see how everybody else
Okay.
does.
I think because of the ease of changing the ordinance in the future, I'm comfortable with 3.
I'd like to stay with 5 personally.
Okay.
Do you want me to explain why?
Yeah,
now?
please.
If we take it to 3, we have the potential, at least this is the way I see it, we have the potential of 3 people monopolizing everything. Right, because one person could get 3 licenses. They could get,
4 licenses, actually, or retail.
Well, besides
and then-
retail.
Yeah.
But if we had
so it could come down to just 3 people in town.
opposed to 5, because 5 could do the same.
Right.
No, well, we only have 3 retail spots. If those 3 retail people went out and
Okay,
got
I see
licenses
what
for
you're
all that,
But
it
for
becomes like a
these-
monopoly.
But for these licenses.
Yeah, not a true monopoly, but nevertheless,
Right. Oligopoly.
mono business. Okay, so Josh is 5, Paul?
I'm for keeping it at 5. To be redundant, I'm concerned about the opportunity of monopoly, and it's just a great opportunity for development. I don't think you're going to see, once we go, okay, 54 people in line fighting for the 15 licenses, I don't see it. There isn't that much property yet to be developed. It would also encourage people to buy property and build structures. Example, Spring Hill Road, at first starting out with wells, with putting their own infrastructure in, and then hooking up to the city. When we were able to get out there, it increases the money coming into the city, so we can increase our infrastructure. It just makes a lot of sense. Plus, it's going to create quite a few jobs. I mean, we've seen people talking about the water plant and jobs. There's potential for careers here also. I mean, so I'm down with 5, and
Okay.
yeah, so.
Melanie?
Well, I think that Juliana thinks 5 is manageable for her, and these two, have spent a lot more time working on this than I have. So I think I'll go with 5.
Okay. All right. So if that's kind of all, I'd like to open this up to the public, if we're good with moving this
Do you have
along
any
that way. 'cause
thoughts
we're-
on that, or is that
Huh?
not? Do you have any-
This is not a vote, that was just an initial poll to
Okay.
see where it stands.
Right.
Now, if we hear something, people can either change their mind one way or the other,
Okay.
because we're not committed here.
All right.
So I would like to open this up to the public, if anybody'd like to speak to us about the license and standards for the industry license and standards. Name and address, please.
Ali Tagavi, 401 Berry Street. I just was listening in regards to the number limits of licensing being discussed. And I agree with Paul Beck that jobs are really crucial in this town, and that not everyone is able to, because of zoning and limitations, finance. There's a whole bunch of things that you have to be prepared to even start on this journey. But we're talking about lots and lots of jobs. Everything's done by the hands, every label that you have to put on the bottle, every testing, every weighing out. I mean, there's so many jobs in each department, as you can imagine, in your juice bar, your coffee bar. We're just kind of constantly creating. And also in regards to monopoly or something like that, I feel like the state is allowing the licensed facilities, if they're under one roof, to be vertically integrated as a micro business, so they could potentially, within their zoning and abilities, to be a single sourced company, seed to sell. If it's under one roof, then they're able to do it through the state regulations, meaning they meet everything else. So I just want to go back to opening it up to 15 or 3 or whatever. Just for our stance, I like to be able to manage the quality and be able to produce and see it through its mission. And I don't want to take that opportunity away from any other farmers out there, processors and anything, just because we're able to do it in our building. So I'm in here actually asking that if we are qualified to do that, and not to take away from other people's rights out of that 5, perhaps, that there's opportunities for other people to, if they're canned or in zone, whatever, that they have opportunity to participate and create products, because California is gonna need it. We need the jobs. We need to create, and I just see it. It's a full season spectrum, not a seasonal thing too, and it's going to pay great living jobs, wage, and it's just going to be a continuous boom. So I think that I appreciate, first of all, your time being here. Honestly, this is amazing to me that you guys put your time to be here and go over this once again. I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That's it. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Okay.
Elizabeth, 408 South Mount Shasta. I just wanted to kind of expand on what Paul said. Some really dear friends of ours just purchased a gorgeous lot up in the gated community behind the high school. Sorry, I don't know what it's called. But they literally purchased to build a home there because they heard that we were having these opportunities in Mount Shasta and are excited to come up and build a home and apply for one of these licenses. So that's already the first person that I know that is actually moving to our area to make a home to have a business. So it is already, you know, that's the first person that I know of that is taking that step to actually purchase property, build a home, to have an opportunity to have a business and employ other people here. So I really think having the 15 licenses and not creating a monopoly, I think Juliana would know there's such a process that we're going to have to go through come January 1. The Bureau isn't even closing that day. They're not taking a holiday because they know come midnight and forward, they're going to be barraged. So that opportunity to have already people wanting to come, nice people purchasing property, homes, it's opening a door, and I think it's really going to be a blessing and a benefit for here. So I really would like you to consider the 15, please.
Thank you. Anyone else? Your name and address, please.
Hi, my name's Barry, live in Mount Shasta. And a couple of things. First off, the 5 is way better than 3, so I'm in agreement with all that and all the good reasons. I just wanted to try to clarify or try to understand what volatile is or what food grade is or alcohol, I mean, people that make tinctures and make high-grade quality tinctures use organic methanol, and it's usually 190 proof. That would be considered high grade. Is that legal? Is it not legal? I'm not understanding that at all.
Do we want to, it's kind of not part of this one. Basically, it seems to me that no matter what you do, there's some rules and regulations that you're going to have to do, whatever kind of alcohol, but definitely not any of the
Right, I
high
understand.
proof.
Correct, I understand those other things, but when you say high proof,
What was that, ethanol? What's ethanol's percentage?
ethanol should be 190.
Again, proof and actual percentage of ethanol in something are two different things. So when you have a 100 proof alcohol, that's only 50%. So
Correct.
that's a little different. There is some language in here that I can find for you that clarifies that in the state regulations, and that's what we would follow. So I don't know if you guys want to give me 2 seconds to look for that in here. I know it is.
Pretty much, we're not going to go with we've already did that one.
But I don't understand it, because
So
she's
maybe-
using words
but-
that are not making sense.
So if you want, we can meet offline about it, and I can point where it clarifies that in the state regulations.
No, but the words you just said were high grade. I'm not talking about other products,
So-
only alcohol.
But-
So, yeah, so when we
So
talk.
what we're doing is, if you would like to find out more
Yes.
about clarity with that after the meeting or
Okay.
in the office with her, she can help you
Yep.
with that, but that is not what this is about. This is about the licensing.
Well,
We're
that's-
already done with the volatile, that's gone.
But part of the licensing with some people I know are going to use
But
those
no,
products.
but that's not, the volatile was in the first, in the manufacturing, in the first one.
The zoning.
Second one, I
The
don't know
zoning.
which one.
The zoning, the first
Yeah.
one.
So it's not, this is not what we're
Okay.
talking about now.
All right.
And if for your clarity, because it's already dealt with, and I understand the needing for the clear definition of what those things are, that can be found after this.
Fine, good, but 5 should be just a starting number. I do think it could go up higher. There's a lot of people here that are just waiting and seeing, that
Okay.
would like to see how well things go, and providing it's going to go really well, I see a lot more people, like, you mentioned, coming to town, buying property, doing things, because it's a great place to live. So, good place to make money if we can do that, too.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to come up? Oh,
Hi, John Bowman, 9914 Big Springs Road, Montague. I just wanted to lay out one hypothetical scenario of the three versus 5. It seems to me that if you're already decided to give 3 licenses for retailers, we already know that there are at least 3 larger operators, people who already have licenses or are going to have licenses. Those are people who obviously are going to want to get cultivation licenses. They're in some ways going to have a benefit or a stronger ability to get those licenses because they're already professional operators. I can see the scenario where any of those 3, or I'm sorry, all of those 3 would immediately eat up all 3 of the cultivation licenses, and you've essentially created 0 opportunities for anyone new to come in. I mean, unless my understanding of the scenario is wrong, it just seems like if sticking with 3, matching that to the retail number provides an opportunity where those 3 could dominate the cultivation part of the process, the processing part of the process. And I don't think that's good in a business sense to lock down those opportunities for 3 main operators who we already could name if we wanted to, and therefore you're not creating any new opportunities for new operators, people out there who would like to do it, who have a dream of doing that kind of thing, who are looking for the opportunity. The number of folks who have come into the office and inquired about this, I don't think is very representative of the amount of interest there's going to be. I think there's far more interest than you guys realize. And I would also just like to say that I don't think we should, we as in you guys should be maybe trying to make that number based on what I would maybe say is fear. I mean, I don't think this is the kind of thing that's going to be Wild West, out of control scenario if you're going from 3 to 5. So the risk of that extra 2 licenses, I don't think presents a big enough risk of unruliness or problems to lend itself to the overly cautious approach of saying, well, let's let 3 operators lock down the whole process. So just a hypothetical scenario I would present to you.
Could you restate your name really quick? I just missed it.
John Bowman.
Thank you.
Can I ask Juliana a question? Juliana?
No.
Okay.
Anyone else from the, you can write down the question.
Okay.
My name is Raymond Strack. I live in Weed. I have the pleasure and privilege of being on the ad hoc committee there in Weed with the 2 city councilwomen and our public health and safety representative. I would just like to make note initially that there are upcoming permit category types that are being released, most notably a type P, which is trimming, processing, and packaging, and also type N, which is a subcategory of manufacturing for infusion only. I can answer some of these questions for the record. One of the missing words you're missing in this plan is distillation. That's the distinction in terms of the use of alcohol. So you can use alcohol to create tinctures, but the use of alcohol through a distillation apparatus qualifies as volatile. That makes sense. So primarily, I would also like to say that the overall number of permits is not necessarily as important as the ratio between permit categories. That is to say, the state's created a system whereby non-square footage capped business permit categories can feed multiple capped categories. 10,000 square foot cultivation permit only allows you that square footage. A nursery does not have a square footage cap, therefore a nursery can provide for XYZ amount of cultivators. Likewise, a manufacturing permit does not come with output caps, so it can take in the plant product of XYZ cultivators depending on infrastructure in that business. There were also some categories, and this is, Juliana, you did a fantastic job here. You're missing the utilization of negative pressure, so vacuuming and other sorts of, where in here is described as pressurized, is actually negative pressure. You're pulling on the product rather than pushing. CO2 is the use of fractional pressure to actually blast referentially molecularly weighted plant matter materials off of the plant. I know this is, I know, a little, but I guess what I'd like to say is you guys have done a great job. Thank you for all of your time. Like, this is great to see local communities engaging in an opportunity the state's given individuals to really make a life for themselves. Like I said, I had the pleasure of serving on the weed ad hoc committee.
So this is about whether we should have, how many licenses?
Sure.
That's kind of what our major
Sure, and
conversation point.
I should have stood up during number 1, but I misunderstood what that one was specifically about. But as far as the actual issuance numbers of permits, I would say that the ratio, right? You're going to have significantly more people coming in and asking about a cultivation permit than a distribution permit. And quite frankly, a distribution permit can handle the output of many cultivators because there's no square footage cap. So I'd be happy to meet with any of you individually or with Juliana to explain some of the finer points of this. I work with Ron Stock very closely on our city planning.
No, that's
department.
okay.
Yeah.
At this point, we need to get this done
Oh,
by the end of the year, right? And
that's the plan. We're doing the same thing. We're doing the same thing.
Yeah, so
anyway,
that's the
thanks for your
important thing.
time, and you guys
Okay,
are doing a
well,
great
thank
job.
you for your information, even though it was a little more scientific than I wanted to deal with. Thank you, though. It's a fascinating thing to be able to listen to all of you different people and all of the, I mean, because that's what your kind of jobs are. So you have all this information that we're like going, okay, we're learning, and it's fascinating. So we're doing the best we can with the deadlines and stuff that we have. So, but I really appreciate the fact that all of you came here peacefully and are giving us information
Good
and feedback.
information.
Yeah. So anyway, I just, is there anyone else? I guess we still have time. Or, I mean, the time is endless here.
Hi, my name is Gina, and I live over on Sisson, and I also have the Green Heart, and I want to thank the city of Mount Shasta has been very generous to the Green Heart. But I also want to, Mount Shasta is special, and a lot of people come here, so I'm all up for people and opportunities too, but I just want to remember that when other people come, that they don't start seeing us as I hate saying the word a pot town or anything and stuff, so I just, keep our integrity of our awesome town and why people come here and stuff, and just, that's all. So just make sure that we don't, I don't know if it's easier to add or if it's easier to subtract permits or licenses and stuff, and so my main thing is just having too much at one time versus just keeping Mount Shasta and beautiful and having people come to our beautiful city. And I just don't want people, if we start too much and too fast, some people might get the idea that we're just the cannabis community up here. We may lose some tourists, because we see a lot of tourists come up through here. But I'm all open for opportunity and stuff, and like I said, I just love Mount Shasta, and we do get a lot of tourists, and I just don't want us to become overrun with cannabis and having it turn bad when it's been a good thing for here in Mount Shasta, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I guess I'm still, if you're all, folks are all done, I'll close the public part of the hearing and come back to the commission. And what we have at this point is a 3 for the 5 and 2 for the 3. And if there's questions or conversation, and if anybody wants to change their mind, that's one way or the other. I'm open to that, because my vote isn't in here. But at this point, yeah, you don't need to know how I feel about this yet. Because I might have to break a tie, which I can't if there's a tie, because there's 6 of us. It's not good. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to ask, it's Tucson and Emily are the two, you were the 2. Did you change your minds on the 3?
I have not.
Tucson?
I do appreciate the comments. I think it's very valuable. But just, I'm not sure about the monopoly thing, if that's, we don't know what's going to happen. Whether they're going to, one business is going to take several licenses, or if they're going to be individual. And I just thought that 15 potential individual businesses for these different licenses was quite a lot for our small town. So that's why I just kind of want to start smaller and see what happens. And then we can always move it up. But I understand about the job creation and the city revenues and everything. I'm all for that. But I just feel like 15's a lot.
I agree with Tucson. I think also we don't know what the city repercussions are going to be. I know one person said don't do this out of fear, but in reality we don't know if there are going to be complaints or not. It's a lot easier to change this ordinance. I mean, Juliana, can you tell me how easy is it to change this ordinance? We could do it in one meeting, right? Within a month. If someone came to you and said, I would like a permit in addition to the 9 that you already have in this category, we could add that permit pretty easily.
You would have to amend the language of the ordinance. So in that case, say, for example, you bring it down to 3. So there's a total of 9. And we go through the application period and we get 20 total. I could come back and bring that information to you guys, but what you would have to do is you would have to open the ordinance back up, amend the number, and then you would have to recommend approval by the city council, which would then be 2 meetings. And then after the 2 meetings, it would be a 30-day ratification.
Okay, so potentially within 2 months we could have more.
Yeah.
Okay. So
2, 3.
So to me, being a little bit more conservative at first, we don't know how this is all going to end up in the next 2 years. I would like to reevaluate it and potentially add permits. However, I am pretty set on 3 in that this is a pretty new thing, and I think there's not a lot of other cities in the county that are even doing this. I know the county's not doing it. I think 3 is a conservative number, but I think it is something that we should start with. Also, my question is, are all 3, I know that people are concerned about monopoly, but are all 3 dispensary licenses actually in use right now?
The retail, correct. Yes, they are.
Okay.
And as far as, again, to address the monopoly, I did this last meeting. Based on the research I've done in other cities and asking that question about monopolies, is we're really not seeing that. And as far as the people who are asking questions about the different licenses, it's not the same person looking to get all 3 licenses as once. Like I said, it's only been one property manager who's not even himself going to get a license. He's facilitating other people. So.
Okay. And then my second question is, nursery cultivation permits are not capped, that's correct?
So nursery, you can't, it's not really cultivation in that sense. It's not the greenhouses and stuff like that. A nursery is basically the seeds and the starts. So they can either send those seed starts to a retail establishment, or they can send them to the cultivators.
Right, okay, but that number is not capped.
No, it is not. And again, if you want to recommend that it is capped similar to the other ones, we can do that, but looking at the available properties for that,
Yeah.
we really can't facilitate that
I
many.
think you explained that pretty well, and that there's
Yeah.
just not enough space for that, but I do think that that allows for that kind of business to come in more, I mean, to the point that we can fit it. Like Paul mentioned earlier, up here behind Spring Hill, there's a lot of area that could potentially be used for that there, I'm sure. So that number is not capped, and I think that does allow for additional business that would not add to a monopoly.
Okay, so because this is an arbitrary number, we could do 4, right? We could do, it's arbitrary. We have 3 and 5, we could do 4. Because I really think, I don't like having 3 retail and 3 of each of these. It seems to me, it's just numerically, it bothers me. And so I would like to have just a little bit of opportunity. The other thing is, all these people that get these licenses could fold, because everybody in the state of California is doing this. So we don't know any, but this is going to be the boom town of all the marijuana in California. It's not. You know, so I think we're worrying, they still have to be businesses, they still have to get the licenses and the permits and the regulations.
Which
and
we control.
bookkeeping and all of that stuff. It's a lot to be a business, as you know, dear. So I would like to do more than 3, and if it would help our other 2 commissioners, and we all compromised and did 4, so it just was like a little shift of difference, that'd be my recommendation. So, because we can go up easier than we can go down, I think. Is that right?
Correct.
We
Yes.
cannot revoke a permit once we've given it.
Correct, unless someone violates the ordinance.
Yeah. But it's not going to be a runaway marijuana town. I hate to say this. It's really not going to be. We don't have enough customers. And there's going to be people in Shasta Lake, and there's going to be people in Chico, and there's going to be people in, they're not all going to be driving up here to buy marijuana. They might come here when they're vacationing, though, and want to buy some marijuana. So,
And I don't think it's just the buying, it's the distribution that, I mean,
but they
potentially-
can't distribute, they can't drive it into the county
Yeah, that's,
at this point. That's not correct? You can't drive through the county?
Yes.
Oh, good. That's,
In banned municipalities and jurisdictions, you have to allow free travel.
By the
Okay.
way, you guys have to cut off discussion, you can't be
Okay.
discussing from the audience.
so I was wrong on that. But anyway, so that's my recommendation. And if it, and otherwise, you guys need to make up your mind on a motion, and then we'll vote on it, because that's the only thing I can do to change everybody's mind, and we can vote on it, and then we can vote on it again if we can't get some kind of agreement. But I need somebody to make a motion, because I think we don't need to really talk about it. It's not that
So, go ahead.
much discussed.
go,
By all means.
I can make a compromise and go up to 4.
Thank you.
just on your folding gun.
All right,
Well,
then I'll
you
make a
can vote-
motion.
You can vote 3, it doesn't matter. I just need a motion now.
I'll move that we adopt the ordinance as presented with the modification that we change no more than 5 of each license type for a total of, what would be then, 16? Wait,
12.
5.
12.
Yeah,
12, sorry.
12.
12. So 4 of each license type. So that's my motion.
I need a second on this.
I'll second.
All those in favor of using the 4 licenses instead of the 5 or the 3, may I hear your vote? And let's do it by person, because this may not come out evenly. So Josh? 4?
This is Josh.
What?
Let's start down there.
That's Tucson.
Sorry, I'm thinking too
We can
hard.
call roll.
I only have so much room in here.
Okay. I'm
Roll
Paul.
call vote, thank
Would
you.
you like-
We never
okay.
do this, so I
All
don't
right.
think I've ever done it.
I can handle that for you. All right, Commissioner Sarian.
Aye.
Commissioner Finling.
Aye.
Commissioner Accord.
I don't know. Aye.
Commissioner Kirby.
Just in the interest of passing this, I give it an aye.
Okay. Commissioner Beck.
No.
And Chair Haguer.
Aye.
That is a 5-to-1 vote in favor of 4 for each category for a total of 12. All right.
Okay, thank
And I
you.
believe part of your motion was also to adopt.
Yeah,
Okay, so
it's the whole package.
the whole package? Did you guys understand that we were voting on the whole package?
Yes.
Clarify, please.
So that was to amend it from 5 each to 4 each for a total of 12 and approve it. Or were you aware that you were voting that way?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure everyone knows what's
I
going
thought
on.
it was a trick
Okay. All right, so 5.8 has been approved to go forward to the city council. All right?
The council could decide they want to do 5
Council,
or 3
council
or
could
3.
straight up vote down everything, which has happened. So
Yes.
So I would just like to cover really quick, the city council, for the record of everybody, city council will be reviewing your proposed ordinances this coming Monday, the 9th, will be the first reading of these ordinances, and the second reading will be October 23rd. I noticed the public hearings in anticipation that you would approve something tonight, so I maybe was a little naughty there, but
Do you know where it'll be on the agenda?
it is the first, so because they're public hearings, they have to become first in the agenda, so they'll be the first action items.
What time is the meeting?
The meeting is at 5:30.
Okay, I won't be able to make it. but-
That's fine. So it does have to go through 2 readings, so it'll be presented at the 9th and the 23rd of October. Just
Did
for
I
you.
say something?
We can
This
talk
week.
afterwards.
No, I meant
Next
to,
Monday. What is that?
like, commission.
Next Monday.
But-
If you want to say something nice, yeah.
Yeah,
We have to
of
go.
course.
Okay.
I was just with hope, I had planned on being at the follow-up meeting for this to implore the city council to go forward with this. I'm probably going to have a minor surgery on Monday, and even still, I don't think I'll be able to make it back for the meeting, because characteristically, the time is set at 3 o'clock, but he's never on time. By that time of day, he's an
Okay.
hour behind. So I'm not going to make the meeting. I'm hoping 1 or 2 of you could make the meeting, so we kind of make sure that all the work we've put in is for naught. So that's my request to my fellow teammates.
So Juliana, are they kind of up to speed with this, or have they not seen it much at all?
They will be. We have done a pre-agenda meeting, which we do traditionally, where 2 of the members of city council go over the next agenda, and so I have covered it with 2 of the 5 members to just kind of give them a draft run through of what we're talking about. But basically, after this meeting, I'm going to go back to my office, put everything down that you guys have decided, and send that out to them immediately so that they can start reviewing it in anticipation for Monday. And then I believe Commissioner Finling and yourself are going to be having your Planning Commission and City Council quarterly meeting with the mayor and Councilmember Engstrom.
Are they the ones that were at the briefing that you had with 2 of them?
Nope, the
So
2
this is 2 more that you were going to kind of cover?
Correct. The 2 who were at the pre-agenda were Councilmember Stackfleff and Mayor Pro Tem Stearns.
Okay.
So everyone's at least kind of heard about it or asked questions about it. At that meeting as well, we'll be presenting the potential fees for all of that as well. So,
Okay.
yep, that meets here in the upper lodge.
5:30 on Monday and
Correct.
5:30 the following Monday.
October 23rd, so
That's 2 weeks.
yeah, okay, yeah, there you go. And if you guys have any,
And then we're in between.
and if you guys have any additional questions, I can answer them offline.
Okay, so this is a special meeting, so we're going to adjourn this until to our next regular meeting, which is Tuesday, October 17th, 2017 at 6 PM here.